This is Daily Blast Live. We're talking about what you're talking about.
You all ready for this?
This is a sham.
No.
Y'all,
Just stop.
get real.
Welcome to DBL. Hello, everyone.
Yo.
What day is it? I'm genuinely asking.
I had no
Hump
idea.
Day. I'm genuinely asking. It's Wednesday, guys. We're
Start the
halfway
show with
through
a
the
pop
week.
quiz.
Yeah, exactly. If Nancy's on a train, he's going 30 miles per hour. Welcome to DBL.
Why would her name matter in that?
Remember in the SATs, it'd
Yeah,
be like,
but her name wouldn't.
they always said when Nancy's got 3 mangoes. Okay, welcome to DBL.
Where it happened to the train?
Time Magazine. She's getting mangoes on the train.
That is a
Time
question.
Magazine is out with their Person of the Year, and it's Al. No, it's not. It may come to surprise you, some of you, but maybe not so much for others. It's Taylor Swift. Clap if you like it. Okay.
That's a great picture.
Oh my God, there was a boo.
And look at her cat. How cute is that one? She is the first entertainer to ever receive the honor. Let me say that again. The first entertainer ever. She is also the first woman to appear twice on a Person of the Year cover. If you remember, she was named in 2017 and recognized as one of the silence breakers who inspired women to speak out about sexual misconduct. But it's not just Time Magazine that is recognizing Taylor, okay? She also tops People's 2023 Most Intriguing People of the Year list. I didn't know that was an option. She was number 5 on Forbes' list of the most powerful women in the whole wide world. That list includes Kamala Harris, our very own vice president. What do we think? Is anyone against this? I'm super for it.
I'd love to know who was booing as you said it.
I think a lot of football
I
people.
think Steph wants to meet him after the show.
What do you think, Steph?
I just think exactly that. The fact that she's obviously up there with Kamala Harris is a huge accolade in itself, but I think she has got more power than Kamala Harris. I think more people listen to her. She's got a wider demographic. More people know who she is. And I think the number was something crazy, like $5 billion she brought to the American economy.
This is correct. Let me give you, the U.S. Travel Association estimates the U.S. leg of the tour added more than $5 billion to the state's economies. In Denver alone, she added $140 million to Colorado's GDP with just 2 nights of her tour.
Just saving America one state at a time.
But
I
it
love
wasn't just
it.
America. She toured internationally.
Yeah.
That's
So,
right.
like, you think about these smaller countries. A lot of countries are like the size of Ohio, West Virginia. So.
And she's
you
still
know,
going, by the way. It goes on
yes,
for
and
next
so-
year.
Yeah. So for her going to these countries and like how that affects like the local economy in terms of, I've read a couple articles where some people were saying it jacked up hotel prices. So and you know people were flying certain places because they couldn't get in other places. So I mean this is a global effect we're talking about. That's why normally Mr. Pushback over here, I don't have a whole lot to say, Erica. I mean, what can you say?
Let's talk to the Swiftie herself, Erica Cobb, with her cobblers.
Yeah, well, you know, I inadvertently stumbled upon Swiftie territory because of a few things that I said on the show that they took and like ran with. And I'm not kidding you, like probably 25% of my social media presence is Swifties. Like
That's about it for me too.
Yes, honestly. So about 25%, and anything that I do, like there is like a support there. They are very, very much like this is who we love. We see ourselves in this person, which you can understand through a lot of other fandoms. But I think that when you're seeing fandom now, like whether it's, you know, the Bayhive or it's, you know, a lot of the what is it? Not B2K.
BTS.
BTS, yeah. BTS.
To the African American panelist.
I think that fandom now means something different. It means something where you're going through these iterations with these stars who you may have met when, you know, you were 13 and they were 13, and then you see how they've kind of reinvented themselves and the things that are important to them. I think some of the things that really stand out in terms of how Taylor Swift, her actions politically, is a lot of people in her situation would not speak on things like the Me Too movement. Her coming to Colorado and facing her aggressor in that way was something that meant a lot to a lot of people. When she spoke out during the social justice movement, when at that time people in her position were super quiet.
Yep.
Very quiet. And she was very clear about where she stood on that issue. She's made some choices that a lot of people have probably advised her not to. And in Miss Americana, they talk about that. So it's not shocking that she would have this type of impact, because the impact is absorbed across a lot of different barriers.
That's true. I mean, I'm back from 2007 Taylor. That's my Taylor, so it's weird. Old school Taylor. Also, to talk about Taylor's fans, they even include, I wanted to get to this very quickly. A lot of people are talking about her attendance at the NFL games, Al. And she wanted to say, quote, "I'm just there to support Travis. I have no awareness of if I'm being shown too much and pissing off a few dads, Brads, and Chads." She also,
quote.
So are you Brad or Chad?
Right. I mean, I guess I would be a Brad, because I guess Chads are the good-looking frat guys, right? I don't. Yeah. Oh, a dad.
You're a dad. You're from there.
Why
We
I
go.
skipped over that one. I
You're a
usually
dad.
save my lives for the club.
There you go.
But the only issue I have with that statement is I will say that she does not have an issue over any control over how many times she's shown, and the broadcast would be right to show her. She is very popular.
Yeah.
But I will say this: there are some people that it's. I don't know if going after them, it's like saying, sorry, I pissed you off. This is some people's this is their Taylor Swift, is watching this game. And if they cut into Taylor Swift concerts with highlights of linebackers tackling running backs, I think people would have a little bit of a problem with that. So I think there hasn't been riots in the streets where people are like, I want to watch the game.
Right. Viewership among teen girls has spiked 53% also for football.
That could be a bigger impact 10, 15 years from now.
Totally agree as consumers. Let me get to this quickly. Taylor's fans even include disgraced former Congressman George Santos, who is now on Cameo, by the way. Check him out singing his favorite Taylor song.
My favorite TS song is definitely going to be Trouble. I knew you were trouble when you walked in. That's me. Bye.
You're disgusting, but that was kind of funny. I knew you were trouble when you... I can't believe
He's
you went there.
$400 on Cameo.
He's got no shame.
I bet you he is raking it in.
Oh, yeah.
Totally.
Well, if he's doing that.
Especially if he's singing Taylor songs, absolutely.
Dude, that guy's full of Botox and BS. Coming up on DBL, Sean Hannity presses Trump on whether he'd abuse power if elected president again. Plus, would Biden be running in 2024 if Trump wasn't? And the inspirational story from a former Marine who is helping other veterans get access to service dogs. Stay tuned for this one.
Okay, random question.
Yeah.
In the times,
How do you guys
let me just say
know
that. Got it. Perfect.
if you're hungry or you just need to drink some water?
Gotcha.
The whole story's about time management.
You gotcha.
They do say if you drink a
She also
bottle of
says-
water and you're
Perfect.
still hungry, then you're actually just hungry.
Got it.
Not you're dehydrated.
She was saying you want to get to see. It was kind
That's
of a
good.
mess.
Okay,
Hey,
because
Jody, really
I feel like I've done well with my water, but I got up really early this morning, so
Did you eat anything?
I had a rice cake.
Then
That's
you're
really
probably
not very
hungry.
much.
Okay.
Yeah, rice
See,
is nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Very easy to figure
I
this out.
forgot I got up.
Good. Okay.
I got up at 4.
Oh, what did you
Work to
do?
I had to finish that in the pod and just like
I know what you
I just got a ton of work to do.
If y'all haven't heard Al's podcast, it's called My Safe Word Is More, and it is hilarious.
Oh, thank you.
It's hilarious. I listen every single week. His co-host is Corinne Kaplan. She will be guesting on the show tomorrow.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's really good. It's you have to have humor in order to listen to it.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
Corinne is why I gravitate to all of you guys on the panel. You guys have a distinct inability to lie.
You know what he wrote
And
back
I
on our Twitter?
am drawn towards that. Because I'd rather just like, even when we mix it up, I just want to know how you feel. And it's never like sugarcoat. It's like, no, this is, I'm like, all right.
Yeah,
I
you
dig
gotta.
that. That's how Corinne is.
No, for sure. It's very unapologetic, and yeah, you have to come in ready to laugh,
Yes.
to listen to it. If you can't laugh, don't listen to it. But I think that you're kind of on the spot. You just say what's on your mind.
Welcome back to DBL. All right. There has been a lot of speculation about what former President Trump may do if he is elected. Some have even suggested he could seek revenge against people and even become a dictator. Well, Sean Hannity asked him about this very specific information last night on Fox News. Let's see his answer.
Under no circumstances, you are promising America tonight, you would never abuse power as retribution against anybody.
Except for day one.
Except
Look,
what?
he's going crazy. Except for day one.
Meaning?
I want to close the border, and I want to drill,
That's
drill,
not that's
drill.
that's not
No, no.
that's not retribution. I got
I'm going to be, you know, he keeps, we love this guy. He says, you're not going to be a dictator, are you? I said, no, other than day one. We're closing the border, and we're drilling. After that, I'm not a dictator, okay?
Okay. Meantime, President Biden was at a campaign fundraiser last night and said he might not be seeking a second term if Trump was not running again. So this all comes ahead of tonight's fourth Republican debate. And yet again, Trump will not be here. So what do you all think about, let's go back to that dictator little spiel there.
I thought it was a strange answer. He had 4 years to close the border. It's not like he was just about to do it. I just thought that was a strange answer. It's a little bit of a non-answer as well, but I don't know how much his following would even dislike him being a dictator. I think the thing that's lost on us, if you look through history, is dictators come to power because people want them. They kind of say what they're going to do. They're populist. They run on kind of the same thing. The media is this, and I'll take control. You need a strong man. And we've seen this throughout history. So I think Trump represents that. A lot of people just want a strong leader. They don't want to have a lot of back and forth. They're like, what does this guy say? And he presents that option.
Yeah, I think there's also an idea of chaos and imbalance also upsets the balance enough that people can have like runs of power that can change and upset the balance of our financial systems, how we just live our lives. So people who maybe weren't seen before or didn't feel like they were in a position of, you know, being able to be successful in this current world, in this current country as it is, really put a lot into the idea of Trump, because upsetting the balance is how some people rise to power.
Very quickly, I just want to say also, I take it really seriously, this idea, and everyone's sort of laughing and joking and clapping and all this. This is what you said was so powerful. People like it. It slides in. When he says things, I'm not going to be a dictator. Woo! That kind of things have hints of beginnings of dictatorships, because you don't see what the whole mountain is. And may I say, Liz Cheney is possibly running for a third-party run. Her book has been out now. It is #1 on the bestsellers list in Amazon, and she is predicting a really scary situation if we let Trump win, meaning taking over some part of the Constitution, taking over maybe some part of the Department of Justice, retribution for the January 6 people that enforce the law. So I just wanted to bring that up and say, perhaps take a look at Liz Cheney, read the book if you're concerned as that as well. You were saying about your visa, if he had closed the border.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, it's not necessarily about, obviously, I do think I'll give him his kudos in the fact that people follow him and people like him and people listen, but it is scary.
Yeah.
And half of sarcasm, I believe, is the truth. It's a way of saying things without being too, I was joking. You've always got that backup. To the fact that he is making a joke about being a dictator, and saying, only on day one, it's really alarming.
It creeps in.
And obviously, for people like myself, I'm an immigrant in this country, and if Trump had still been in power when I was transitioning to a green card, I would not have been granted it flat out. I was told that.
Wow.
So as soon as Biden came into power, that was something really important to me. So, I mean, I think there's good and evil on both sides, but it concerns me greatly in how he approaches it.
Pay attention, everyone. Pay attention. Thank you for that take. Coming up on DBL, we're talking with a remarkable Marine veteran who's using his own experience with a service dog to help others. If you don't want to miss his story, it's coming up next.
After Senator Angus King proposed his gun bill called the Go Safe Act, those in Maine's Republican Party targeted the senator, which leads us to the Facebook post saying, by the way, Angus King has never, ever, not once, gotten one of his bills signed into law. So is it true? Has Angus King never had any of his bills signed into law? Our sources, GovTrack, Senator Angus King's office, and the University of Maine Political Science Department. GovTrack is a project by the company Civic Impulse, a data and tracking source for congressional transparency websites. According to GovTrack, Senator Angus King has successfully presented 7 bills that have become laws in his 10 years in office. So, we can quickly verify that the claim by the Maine Republican Party is not true. According to Senator King's office, in an email, a spokesperson responds to the claims, writing, quote, "It is untrue. Like all falsehoods, let's not give it more power/audience by amplifying it."
I think the bigger issue is that it's a lot easier to spread disinformation today than it ever has been before, right?
That's University of Maine political science professor and department chair Mark Brewer. According to the professor, putting out claims that are not true, despite how easy they are to disprove, is increasing in American politics.
For many Americans, there are simply no more umpires, right? It's just nobody there to say whether something is inbounds or out of bounds.
He says it's because people tend to gravitate towards more information that further establishes their biases and their view of the world. So, once again, we can verify that the claims from the Maine Republican Party against Angus King are not true. With your Verify, I'm Jack Molden.
Welcome to DBL. It is a sobering fact. Each year, thousands of veterans die by suicide, and Cole Lyle could have been one of them. But he chose a different path, and earlier, we spoke with him. Take a look at this.
To tell complete strangers your deepest, darkest secrets takes a strength very few of us can understand.
I'm here for those of us in the veteran communities who have been left behind and continue to deal with the pain of suicide as other veterans see no way out.
When Cole Lyle left the Marines in 2014, the weight of the world was crushing.
Life as I'd known it had been ripped away, and one night alone, I decided to end it all. It is only for the timing of a friend, a fellow Marine, arriving on my doorstep at that exact moment that I'm here right now.
The next morning, Cole sought out alternative options to help his PTSD, which led him to a new best friend.
A few months after searching myself, I got Kaya, who's at my feet today, who quite literally pounced into my life.
Cole spent $10,000 getting Kaya trained as a service dog. It's a luxury very few can afford, but Cole wants to change that for veterans.
They all come to me pleading, in fact, begging, to use what voice I have in this chamber and in the halls of Congress to give you all this message. Service dogs will save lives.
To tell us more, please welcome to the show, Cole Lyle.
Yes.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. Cole, you say medicine and therapy didn't help your PTSD, but Kaya did. So what was she trained to do?
Yeah, so Kaya was trained to specifically wake me up from nightmares and stop anxiety attacks. So if I started having a nightmare at night, she would jump up in bed, lick my face to wake me up, pull the sheets off, go turn the light on, and stay with me until my heart rate got down. But more than that, you know, they can help with specific symptoms, but if you find yourself spiraling and getting to that dark place where you're contemplating taking your life, you know, you feel alone, you feel unloved, and you look down at this dog and you say, I can't leave this dog needs me. It gives you a small sense of responsibility and purpose that pills and therapy, frankly, just never will.
What other ways would you say that Kaya saved your life?
I mean, she just gave me a purpose again. She gave me that small sense of responsibility that I could then build on. I felt comfortable going back out into the world. You know, I got my degree with Kaya at my side. She walked the stage with me. Moved to DC, and that's when I started lobbying for the VA to provide funding for these dogs. And we did that together. And you know, unfortunately, when she passed away, it was a huge blow. But I've been trying to honor her legacy by starting up another organization, Kaya's Canines, to pay for veterinary costs for veteran service dogs, so I can keep these dogs in the fight and help prevent more veteran suicides.
Okay, well, I'm gonna start bawling here, but thank you for your service, first of all. Thank you for Kaya's service. Excuse me. Despite your testimony several years ago, the VA does not provide service dogs. It still does not. I don't understand
Well,
why. Tell me what your message is, please.
Yeah, they do on a limited basis because Kaya and I worked on something called the PAWS Act. It stands for the Puppies Assisting Wounded Service Members Act, that would see the VA start a pilot program at 5 different sites across the country. So on a limited basis, they are starting to provide these dogs. But unfortunately, this seems counterintuitive, but we view suicide through the lens of mental health in this country. And it's not always a mental health problem. In fact, it's usually a conglomeration of acute financial stress, relationship stress, unemployment, transportation issues, any number of things. I mean, certainly mental health can play into it. But, we need to stop looking at it that way. Otherwise, we're going to be using mental health problems or solutions to try to treat something that's not always a mental health problem.
Well, obviously, as the public, I think you just hit on the head. We've been informed that suicide is an issue with our veterans, but you can speak directly to what people may not understand about the connections between veterans and suicide. So this is your platform. This is your chance to talk to the country. Tell people what they can understand better about veterans and suicide.
Well, I think it's a great question, and thank you for that. I think the one thing that we have to realize is that when people join the military, they become a family with people they serve with. It kind of, in part, becomes their identity. And then when you get out, it's a very quick process where all that gets ripped away from you. And then you kind of have to figure out how to be a civilian again. Your food and your housing was all taken care of while you were in the military. You got to, figure that out, especially if you've got a family. Maybe there are some mental health issues resultant from service, but you feel disconnected from the people around you because 80% of people in the military have an immediate family member that served, and less than 1% of the U.S. population serves in any given year. So military service, particularly in the last 20 years of war, the burdens of service have been shouldered by a shrinking minority of American families.
Thank you again for your service. I'm crying for a lot of reasons, but one is dogs saved my life, and so I understand, and I'm so powerfully moved. Dennis McDonough is the United States Secretary of Veterans Affairs. I'll be writing him to try and get more money, and of course, Kaya's Canines we will be plugging at the end of this. But I just wanted to say thank you again for joining us today. DBL Nation, as I said, you can help Cole by donating to Kaya's Canines at kknines.org. The nonprofit gives money to veterans who cannot afford care for their service dogs. And please remember, it's the holiday seasons. Cole, thank you again.
Thank you.
We really thank Kaya as well. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Well
Good
done,
job on
sir.
you.
Yeah, well done.
Walking outside to a car covered in ice or snow usually means putting on some gloves, pulling out your trusty ice scraper, and taking time to clear the mess, so you don't put other cars at risk, like this guy. Many people have shared at-home tricks they use to clear snow or ice from their car faster on social media. Using these sources, here are 3 things we verified you should not use to de-ice your car. No-no number 1, using hot water or homemade solutions. Pouring hot water over snow or ice might seem like an efficient way to melt the mess away, but according to the Rochester Mazda car dealership, the sudden temperature change could crack your windshield. And as for those homemade solutions, like mixing water with ammonia or vinegar, a AAA spokesperson says using any chemical solution that is not manufactured for snow removal on cars could also create small cracks and craters in the windshield, making it unsafe to drive. And they could damage your car's paint too. Next up, using the wrong tools. 1A Auto, an auto repair company, says to never use a shovel to clear snow off your car because many shovels have a metal blade or other sharp edge that will scratch your car's paint. So, what about a broom? 1A Auto says if the bristles are stiffer than a regular snow brush, that can also damage the paint. And finally, using your windshield wipers. Anco Wipers, a blade manufacturer, says making your wipers do the heavy lifting could tear the blades, making them less effective. They also say you shouldn't snap the blades to get ice or snow off. If the spring is tight enough, it can cause the wiper to crack the glass in your windshield. So, now that you know what not to do yourself a favor and find your ice scraper or snow brush before a storm hits. And be kind to your wipers. Use your defrosters to melt ice away on your windshield. With your Verify, I'm Ariande Till.
Colder temperatures are on the way for most of the country. And Verify viewer David sent us a text asking if someone can get sick just from being out in cold or rainy weather, as claimed in a popular old wives' tale.
So, let's verify. Can cold or rainy weather make you sick? Our sources are the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Johns Hopkins Medicine, the Mayo Clinic, and Virtua Health. A cold is a minor infection of the nose and throat that the Mayo Clinic and Virtua Health say you can catch through two primary methods. One is from airborne droplets spread when an infected person coughs or sneezes nearby. The other is when someone touches a contaminated surface and then touches their eyes, nose, or face. Both sources say you can catch a cold regardless of what the weather is like outside. So it's false that cold or rainy weather can make you sick, although it can indirectly make you more vulnerable to an illness. Johns Hopkins Medicine explains when the weather is bad, we spend more time indoors surrounded by other people, which increases our chances of encountering a sick person. The CDC recommends washing your hands often and to avoid touching your face to reduce the risk of catching a cold. With your Verify, I'm Brandon Lewis.
Welcome back. 2024 is right around the corner, and it's time to get ahead of your health for the new year. 2024 Medicare Advantage enrollment starts now, and you can review all of your benefits with Medicare Advantage advisors. So please know that now is the time to call for your free Medicare benefits review. You won't get any additional benefits automatically, so many Americans already on Medicare may not have a plan with all the benefits for them. But now you can make sure you have a plan that works best for you for a healthy 2024. So please contact Medicare Advantage advisors today. The benefits review, again, is free. Call 1-800-975-3361. Quickly, before we go, we do have some sad news. Famed television writer and producer Norman Lear died yesterday. He was 101 years old. His TV sitcoms like All in the Family, The Jeffersons, and Good Times dominated network ratings in the 70s, forever changing the face of TV. They were ingenious for their comedic take on political and social commentary in a way that has never been done before on television. We wish him the best.
What a career.
May he rest in power. We're new. We'll see you tomorrow.